The day Jesse promised me forever, he did it standing in front of a crumbling mansion with a hole in its roof. Rain dripped through that hole, creating a steady rhythm against the marble floor inside, like nature was keeping time with my heartbeat. My name is Savannah, and I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. Or so everyone thought. "Baby, this could be our legacy," Jesse said, his blue eyes sparkling with that charm that made my knees weak. He squeezed my hand and gestured at the weathered columns. "Your grandmother's inheritance. We could bring this place back to life, together." I remember how the spring air felt that day, thick with jasmine and possibility. The Blair family estate stood proud despite its decay, 4 acres of prime Georgia real estate with a house that had seen better days. Much better days. "It's overwhelming," I said, trying to sound hesitant. Jessie's mother Paige appeared behind us, her heels clicking against the broken pathway. "Darling, this house has been in our family for generations," she said, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold as river stones. "Jessie tells me you have quite the inheritance from your grandmother. What a blessing that would be, to restore such history." I smiled, thinking of my father's voice in my head. He'd drilled business sense into me since I was old enough to count. "Never show your full hand," he'd say. "And always, always read the fine print." "The renovation costs would be substantial," I said carefully. "We'd need contracts, inspections." "Oh, sweetheart," Jessie laughed, pulling me close. "You and your paperwork. This is family. Trust is everything." I leaned into him, playing my part perfectly. "I just want to do things right." Later that evening, I sat in my home office, phone to my ear. "Chris, it's Savannah. Remember that corporate structure we discussed? I need it set up. Tonight." "The LLC? You're sure about this?" My oldest friend's lawyer voice was all business. "Absolutely. And Chris, make the contracts ironclad. They won't read them carefully, but we will." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Contractors came and went. Estimates piled up. Jessie's enthusiasm was infectious, and even Paige seemed to warm to me slightly as I agreed to every suggested upgrade. "The original hardwood must be restored," she'd insist, pointing at floors that were practically dust. "And these light fixtures, they simply must be period-appropriate crystal." "Of course," I'd say, signing check after check, each one through my newly formed company, Sunrise Holdings LLC, each one carefully documented and filed. "You're so good at all this boring paperwork," Jesse would say, kissing my neck as I reviewed contracts. He never once asked to read them. 6 months in, we hosted our first dinner party in the partially renovated East Wing. Paige invited half the town's old money families, all curious to see inside the infamous Blair estate. "Savannah has been such a blessing," Paige announced to her friends, champagne glass raised. "So generous with her inheritance. The Blair legacy will shine again." I smiled and sipped my wine, watching Jesse work the room. He was in his element, charming everyone with tales of our renovation adventure. Our eyes met across the crowd, and he winked at me. My heart squeezed. Part love, part something else I couldn't name yet. "To family," he toasted later, when the guests had gone. We stood in what would become our master bedroom, moonlight streaming through the temporary windows. "To our future." I clinked my glass against his, studying his perfect profile in the silvery light. "To the fine print," I whispered. "What was that, baby?" "To forever," I said louder, snuggling into his arms. He held me close, humming contentedly, while I thought about the stack of documents in my office safe. They thought I was naive, the perfect, trusting wife, ready to pour her inheritance into their family home. They really should have read the fine print. The renovation consumed my life for the next year. Every morning I'd arrive at 7 sharp, thermos of coffee in hand, ready to oversee another day of controlled chaos. The workers started calling me the General, half joking, half serious. "Mrs. Savannah, we need your sign-off on the crown molding," Carlos, our lead carpenter, called out one morning, and Mrs. Page left some specific instructions. I reviewed Page's handwritten notes and suppressed a sigh. "She wants it all hand-carved? That'll triple the cost." "Nothing but the best for the Blair estate?" Page's voice rang out behind me. She'd taken to appearing silently, like some disapproving ghost. "Surely you understand, dear." I did understand. More than she knew. Every excessive demand went into my meticulous records. Every change order, every upgrade, every penny spent was documented through Sunrise Holdings. Of course, I smiled, signing the change order. "Chris, can you review this one?" I called to my lawyer friend, who'd taken to stopping by weekly under the guise of checking on permits. That evening, Jesse came home late again. He smelled of expensive scotch and wore the slightly rumpled look of long business meetings. "Baby, you wouldn't believe the day I had," he said, loosening his tie. "But look at this place. It's incredible. You're incredible." I was standing in our newly finished dining room, running my fingers along the mahogany table that cost more than most cars. "Dinner's cold." "I'm sorry. I should have called. The investors, you know how it is?" He wrapped his arms around me from behind. "But wait until you see what Mom picked out for the ballroom. The chandelier is being shipped from Venice." "Venice?" I kept my voice carefully neutral. "That wasn't in the original budget. Since when do you worry about budgets?" He laughed, spinning me around to face him. "You're my little money wizard, always with your spreadsheets and contracts." Later that night, I called Chris from my study. "The Venice chandelier just added another 100,000 to the loan," I whispered. "Did you file the new lien?" "Already done. Savannah." "Are you sure about all this? The total is getting astronomical." I thought about Jesse's late nights, about Paige's smug smile, about the way they both signed documents without reading them. "I'm sure. Just keep everything legal and clean." The next morning, I overheard 2 painters talking in the library. "Yeah, some designer lady's been coming by when the missus ain't here. Real piece of work, that one." "Freya something. Heard she's tight with the family." I pretended to be absorbed in my phone, but my heart started racing. Freya. The name felt like a warning bell. That afternoon, Paige cornered me in the kitchen. "Darling, we simply must discuss the garden redesign. I've had the most wonderful consultation with a talented young designer." "Oh, someone I know?" "Freya Weber. Absolutely brilliant with spaces. She's done work for all the best families." I nodded, adding another note to my mental ledger. "How nice. I'll have my lawyer review her contract." "Oh, don't be so formal." Paige waved her hand dismissively. "She's practically family already." That night, we hosted another dinner party to showcase the nearly completed West Wing. Jesse was in rare form, charming everyone with his vision for the estate's future. "A toast," he announced, raising his glass. "To my beautiful wife who made all this possible. To family." I clinked glasses with the guests, watching Jesse work the room. He was talking to a striking blonde in a red dress who I'd never seen before. She laughed at something he said, touching his arm just a fraction too long. That's Freya. Jocelyn, Jessie's sister, appeared beside me. The designer Mom's been raving about. Her voice held an odd note of warning. I took another sip of champagne, my other hand clutching my phone with its folder of documented expenses, contracts, and liens. How interesting. I look forward to working with her. Jocelyn gave me a long look. Savannah, just be careful, okay? But I was way past being careful. I was being methodical. That night, as Jessie slept beside me, I added up the total renovation costs so far, $2.7 million, all through Sunrise Holdings, all legally binding, all part of the plan. Spring turned to summer, and the estate bloomed while my marriage wilted. Jessie's late meetings became more frequent, and the whispers among the workers grew louder. I pretended not to notice, focusing instead on the final phase of renovations. "Mrs. Savannah!" Carlos called out one morning. "That designer lady's here again. Says she needs to measure the master suite." I looked up from my clipboard. "I didn't schedule any appointments today." "Oh!" A musical voice rang out. Freya appeared in the doorway, looking perfectly put together in designer jeans and a silk blouse. "I'm so sorry. Jessie said it would be fine. We've been discussing some finishing touches." My stomach clenched, but I kept my voice steady. "Have you?" "Funny. He hasn't mentioned it." "Oh, yes. We've had several meetings about the overall vision." Her smile was pure, sugar-coated venom. "The Blairs have such exquisite taste." That evening, I confronted Jessie in his study. "Funny thing happened today. Freya stopped by, again." "Did she?" He barely looked up from his laptop. "She's helping Mom with some details." "At 7 p.m.? In our bedroom?" "Don't start, Savannah. You're being paranoid." He finally met my eyes. "This renovation stress is making you crazy." I pulled out my phone, showing him the text I'd received from one of the painters. A photo of Jessie and Freya laughing together in the garden when I was supposedly out of town. "Explain this." "She was consulting on the fountain design." "Jesus, do you have the workers spying on me now?" His face darkened. "You need to trust me." "Trust goes both ways," I said quietly. The next day, I was reviewing contracts in the library when Jocelyn burst in, looking troubled. "Savannah, we need to talk." She closed the door behind her. "It's about Freya." "I know." "No, you don't. She's been here almost every night when you're gone. And Mom's encouraging it." I set down my papers. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because what they're doing is wrong." Jocelyn's eyes filled with tears. "But I can't openly go against them. The family would—" "I understand." I reached for her hand. "Thank you for being honest." That afternoon, I accidentally left Jessie's iPad unlocked on the kitchen counter while I made coffee. Sure enough, a message popped up. F. "Missing you already. Last night was perfect." Jessie. "Be patient. Soon." I photographed the exchange, then forwarded it to my email before deleting the evidence. When Jessie came home, I was waiting in the newly finished conservatory. "The house is almost done," I said casually. "Just the final touches left. Yeah, about that." He loosened his tie. "Freya has some suggestions for the grand unveiling party. Mom thinks—" "I found the messages, Jessie." He froze. "What messages?" "Don't." My voice was ice. "Just don't." "Baby, you're misunderstanding." "Am I misunderstanding the late nights? The secret meetings? The way she touches you when she thinks I'm not looking. You're being hysterical. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Everything I've done has been for this house, for our future. I laughed, the sound echoing off the pristine walls. Our future? Or yours and Freya's? You need to calm down, he snapped. You're embarrassing yourself. I turned to leave, but my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it and felt my world tilt. It was a photo of Freya, wrapped in nothing but a sheet, clearly taken in our newly renovated master bedroom. The caption read, "Oops, wrong number. But since you paid for the sheets, thought you should see how well they're being used. F." I showed Jesse the phone. His face went white. "Savannah, I can explain." "No need." I walked to the door, then turned back. "By the way, how carefully did you read those renovation contracts?" "What? What does that have to do with—" "Just curious." I smiled, thinking of the stack of documents in my safe. "You might want to take a look. Soon." I left him standing there, surrounded by the beautiful prison he'd helped me build. The walls were watching, and they knew exactly what was coming next. The final chandelier went up on a Tuesday. I stood in the grand foyer, watching the crystal masterpiece from Venice being hoisted into place. $3 million of renovation, every inch perfect, every detail exquisite. My masterpiece. Beautiful, isn't it? Jesse's voice was cold, formal. I hadn't heard him come in. "It is." I didn't turn around. "We need to talk." He moved to stand beside me. Gone was the warmth, the charm, the man I'd married. "This isn't working anymore." I kept my eyes on the chandelier. "Which part? The marriage or the affair?" "Don't be crude." He straightened his tie. "I'm filing for separation. I need you to leave the estate. Today." The crystal pieces tinkled softly above us, catching the afternoon light. "Leave? You have 24 hours to pack your things." His voice was mechanical, rehearsed. "My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce settlement." "Your lawyer?" I finally turned to face him. "That's interesting. Don't make this difficult, Savannah." He checked his watch. "Freya will be here soon to—" "To what? Help you pack my things? Choose new curtains?" I felt oddly calm. "Does she know about the loans?" He frowned. "What loans? The renovation was paid for with your inheritance." The front door opened, and Paige swept in, Freya trailing behind her like a sleek shadow. "Oh, good! You told her!" Paige's voice dripped with false sympathy. "Darling, this is for the best. The Blair estate needs, well, a true Blair." Freya had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable, but her red lips curved in a triumphant smile. "I've already called the locksmith," Paige continued. "We'll have the codes changed by evening." I walked to my office, 3 pairs of eyes following me. From my safe I retrieved a thick manila envelope. "Before you call that locksmith," I said, returning to the foyer, "you might want to read this." "More paperwork?" Jesse scoffed. "Always with the documents." "Yes, always with the documents." I handed the envelope to Paige. "You see, the renovation wasn't paid for with just my inheritance. It was funded through a corporation. My corporation." Paige's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she opened the envelope. "What is this? Every invoice, every contract, every change order you insisted on, all funded through Sunrise Holdings, LLC, and every penny is registered as a lien against the property." Jesse's face went from smug to confused to pale. What are you talking about? You really should have read the fine print. I pulled out my phone, dialing Chris. Remember all those documents you signed? The ones authorizing the work, the expenses, the loans? They gave Sunrise Holdings first position on the property. You can't do this, Paige whispered. This is our family home. Actually, I can. And I did. All perfectly legal. I turned to Jessie. By filing for separation, you triggered the due on sale clause. The entire amount is now payable immediately. Freya stepped forward. Jessie, what is she saying? She's saying, I smiled, that unless you can come up with $3 million by the end of the month, this house belongs to my company. You bitch! Paige hissed. You planned this. No, I protected myself. There's a difference. I picked up my purse. Oh, and you don't need to change the locks. I'll have my own security team here within the hour. You can't just take our home. Jessie's voice cracked. 24 hours, I echoed his earlier words. That's how long you have to vacate. My lawyer will be in touch. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. The three of them stood frozen under the sparkling chandelier, Paige clutching the documents, Jessie ashen-faced, Freya backing slowly away from the disaster she'd helped create. By the way, I said, those sheets you liked so much, Freya. They're Egyptian cotton, 2,000 thread count. I hope you enjoyed them. They're being repossessed along with everything else. The heavy door closed behind me with a satisfying thud. In my car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. My phone buzzed, Chris calling back. Is it done? He asked. It's done. I started the engine. File the papers, all of them. The chandelier sparkled through the windows as I drove away, catching the light like justice itself. They've hired Marcus Thompson, Chris announced, spreading papers across his office desk. Best property lawyer in 3 states. Of course they have. I sipped my coffee, watching Atlanta's skyline through the window. What's his angle? Claims the contracts were signed under duress. Says you manipulated Jessie's trust in you as his wife. Chris snorted. It's weak, but they're desperate. My phone buzzed, Jocelyn calling for the 3rd time today. I sent it to voicemail. The property assessor's here. Chris nodded toward his office door. Elijah Waters walked in, carrying a thick folder. Mrs. Savannah, he smiled warmly. I've completed the final appraisal. You're not going to believe these numbers. He laid out photographs of the renovated estate, along with detailed market comparisons. Given the extensive improvements and current market conditions, I'm valuing the property at $5.3 million. Chris whistled. And Sunrise Holdings liens total. Just over $3 million, I finished, plus interest and fees. They'll never get a bank to refinance with those numbers. Elijah shook his head. No one will touch it. My phone buzzed again. This time I answered. Savannah, please. Jocelyn's voice cracked. They're falling apart. Mom's talking about selling her jewelry collection. That's not my problem. Jessie's a wreck. Freya's already ghosted him, won't return his calls. Karma's funny that way. Can't we just... Jocelyn paused. Can't we work something out? Like your family worked things out with me? I kept my voice level. Tell Jessie to call his lawyer. That's all I have to say. Later that afternoon, I met the security team at the estate. Jessie's BMW was still in the driveway, being loaded with boxes. You can't do this to us! Paige came storming out the front door. This house has been in our family for generations, and you should have thought about that before you helped your son betray me. I handed her another envelope. These are the updated liens, by the way. Interest compounds daily. We'll fight this, she hissed. Marcus says Marcus Thompson is welcome to review every document. They're all legal, all properly filed, all signed willingly. I gestured to the moving trucks. Need help packing? Jessie appeared in the doorway, looking haunted. Savannah, please, we can talk about this. Like you talked to me about Freya? About kicking me out of my own investment? I walked past him into the house. Speaking of Freya, how's she enjoying her new apartment? The one you can't afford anymore? He followed me into the foyer, where workers were carefully wrapping the Venice chandelier. Don't take the fixtures, please. Article 7, Section 3 of the contract you signed. I recited from memory. All improvements, fixtures, and furnishings purchased during renovation are property of Sunrise Holdings until final payment is received. You planned this whole thing, he accused, from the very beginning. No, Jessie. I protected myself from the very beginning. There's a difference. I turned to face him. You planned to use me, drain my inheritance, then throw me away. I just made sure I had a safety net. Mrs. Savannah? Carlos appeared, clipboard in hand. The appraisal team needs you to sign off on their report. Of course. I smiled at Jessie. Duty calls. Oh, and those antique doorknobs your mother insisted on? Make sure they're not accidentally removed during your move. As I walked away, I heard Paige's voice rise in hysteria. They're taking everything, Jessie! Everything! My phone buzzed with a text from Chris. Judge Elliott just denied their emergency motion to stay. Property is officially in default. I looked up at the chandelier, remembering Paige's insistence on importing it from Venice. The Blair legacy demands the very best, she'd said. Well, the very best comes with a price tag, and now it was time to pay. Carlos, I called out. Make sure everything's photographed for the auction catalogue, every single crystal. The annual Garden Club Gala was the last place I wanted to be, but Chris insisted it was important to maintain appearances. Let them see you're not hiding, he'd said. So here I was, in a black cocktail dress, sipping champagne while Atlanta's elite whispered behind their hands. Did you hear? The whole estate. Poor Jessie. That calculating little... I kept my head high, making polite conversation about the flower arrangements, until I heard Paige's voice ring out across the room. Well, if it isn't the gold digger herself! The room fell silent. Paige stood swaying slightly, clutching a martini glass, her designer dress slightly wrinkled. Gone was the polished matriarch. This was a woman unraveling. Paige, I nodded coolly. Lovely evening, isn't it? How dare you show your face here? She advanced toward me. After what you've done to my family? I noticed several people holding up phones, recording. Perfect. I'm not sure what you mean, I said calmly. I'm just here to support the Garden Club's charity work. You manipulated my son, stole our home. Her voice rose hysterically. You planned this from the start, you conniving little... Actually, I interrupted, my voice carrying across the silent room. I have video evidence proving exactly who manipulated whom. Would you like me to share it? Right here? She froze. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone, pulled up a video, and pressed play. Jessie's voice filled the air. Once the renovation's done, we'll get rid of her. Mom's already talked to the lawyers. Paige lunged for my phone, but stumbled. Champagne splashed across my dress. Careful. I steadied her. speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. You wouldn't want to cause a scene, not after selling your grandmother's pearls to pay your legal fees. The whispers started again, but different now. Did you hear what Jessie said? Poor Savannah. The Blairs always were. Jocelyn appeared, grabbing her mother's arm. Mom, let's go. You're drunk. She destroyed us, Paige wailed. No, Jocelyn said firmly. You and Jessie did that yourselves. She turned to me. I'm sorry, Savannah, for everything. As they left, my phone buzzed with a notification. Freya had just posted on Instagram, starting fresh in Miami, bye-bye drama, Haschen, new life. Single and fabulous, attached was a photo of her on a yacht with another man. Well played. Chris appeared at my elbow. The video, the timing, the witnesses. I learned from the best. I smiled. How's Jessie taking Freya's departure? Not well. He tried to access his trust fund yesterday. Apparently it's tied up in the estate's liens. The next morning, Judge Elliot's clerk called. The judge wants to see all parties. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. The courtroom was packed. Jessie sat with his expensive lawyer, looking defeated. Paige wasn't present, seeking treatment for exhaustion, according to Jocelyn. I've reviewed all documents thoroughly, Judge Elliot began, peering over his glasses. The contracts are valid. The liens are proper. The default is clear. Jessie's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client was deceived about the nature. Counselor, the judge cut him off. Your client signed multiple documents, all clearly stating terms, all properly notarized. His failure to read them does not constitute fraud. I watched Jessie sink lower in his chair. Furthermore, the judge continued, evidence suggests Mr. Jessie actively planned to defraud Mrs. Savannah of her investment. He held up a transcript of the video. This court doesn't look kindly on such behavior. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Savannah, as primary line holder, you have the right to foreclose and take possession immediately. Do you wish to proceed? I stood, feeling every eye in the courtroom. Yes, Your Honor. Very well. He banged his gavel. Property rights are hereby transferred to Sunrise Holdings, LLC. Defendants have 48 hours to remove personal belongings with supervision. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras. Jessie tried to slip past them, but they swarmed him. Jessie, how does it feel to lose your family estate? Any comment on Freya Weber's recent engagement announcement? Is it true your mother's in rehab? I walked to my car, head high as flashbulbs popped. The headlines would write themselves, Woman takes back what's hers. But this wasn't the end. Not quite yet. The morning of the final inspection, Jessie was waiting by the front gate. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Please, he said as I approached. Can we talk? I nodded to my security team to wait and followed him to the garden bench, the same one where he'd first kissed me years ago. I can get the money, he said quickly. Give me 30 days. I found investors who... No, Savannah, please. This house, it's all I have left. That's not true, I said quietly. You had me. You had my love, my trust, my dedication. You threw it away for what? For Freya? For your mother's approval? He flinched. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You orchestrated a betrayal. I stood up. The appraiser is waiting. Inside, Elijah was already working, documenting every detail for the auction catalogue. The market's hot, he said excitedly. With the renovations and the publicity, we could see bids well over 6 million. Perfect, I smiled, watching Jessie hover in the doorway. Make sure to highlight the Venice chandelier. You can't auction our family heirlooms, Jessie protested. Some of these pieces are irreplaceable. Article 12, Section 4, I recited. All existing furnishings used as collateral against renovation loans become property of the lien holder upon default. Stop quoting the fucking contract, he exploded. I get it. You outsmarted us. You won. What more do you want? I turned to face him slowly. What do I want? I wanted a husband who loved me. I wanted a family who accepted me. Instead, I got conspirators who saw me as a walking checkbook. That's not fair. Not fair. I laughed. Like plotting to kick me out once the renovations were done. Like letting your mother treat me like dirt while spending my money. Like screwing your mistress in my bed. His face crumpled. I'll do anything. Name your price. That's your problem, Jessie. Everything's always been about price for you. I gestured to Elijah. Please continue the inventory. Every item. The next few hours were excruciating. Jessie followed us room by room, watching as we catalogued every piece of furniture, every artwork, every fixture his family had accumulated over generations. The silverware alone should bring 50,000, Elijah noted, examining the dining room cabinets. And these Persian rugs. Stop, Jessie whispered. Please, just stop. I turned to him. You have exactly one chance to make this right. Hope flickered in his eyes. Anything. Sign over the property cleanly. No contests, no delays, no games. In exchange, I'll let your family keep the heirlooms, everything that was here before the renovation. But the house is no longer negotiable. I handed him a document Chris had prepared. Sign, and you can pack up your family treasures today. Fight me, and I auction everything. His hand trembled as he took the paper. You planned for this too, didn't you? Had this ready? I planned for everything, Jessie. That's what happens when you can't trust the people you love. He signed, initials on every page, full signature at the end. You have 24 hours to remove the original furnishings, I said. After that, the house is mine to sell. What about Mom? She's still in treatment. Jocelyn can handle it. She, at least, has shown some decency. As he walked toward the door, he turned one last time. I did love you, you know. In the beginning. No, I said softly. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. After he left, I stood in the grand foyer, looking up at that damn Venice chandelier. $3 million of renovation. 2 years of my life. One brutal lesson in trust. My phone buzzed. Chris calling. The auction house is ready, he said, and you won't believe who's already expressed interest in bidding. Who? Freya's ex-fiancé. Apparently he'd love to own the estate where his girlfriend cheated on him. I smiled, watching the crystal catch the light. Karma really does come full circle, doesn't it? Speaking of karma, Chris added, have you seen the society pages? They're calling you the Queen of Comeuppance. I rather liked the sound of that. The auction house had transformed the estate's ballroom into a showcase of luxury. Potential buyers wandered through, admiring the Venice chandelier, running their hands over marble countertops, and whispering about the scandal that made it all available. Opening bid starts at 5 million, the auctioneer announced to the packed room. Do I hear 5 million? I stood at the back, watching hands raise and numbers climb. Chris squeezed my shoulder supportively, as the bidding war intensified. 6 million! 6.5? 7 million! My phone buzzed. Jocelyn calling. Mom's being released tomorrow, she said when I stepped into the hallway. She's different. Humbled, maybe. And Jesse? Moved to a small apartment. He's actually looking for a real job. She paused. The family needed this wake-up call, Savannah. As horrible as it's been, maybe it's for the best. Back in the ballroom, the auctioneer's gavel crashed down. Sold! For $8.2 million to Mr. James Richardson. I recognized him. Freya's ex-fiancé. He caught my eye and raised his champagne glass with a knowing smile. The crowd began to disperse, but I needed one last moment alone in this house. I walked upstairs to what had been my bedroom, now staged with luxury furniture for the sale. Quite a performance. A familiar voice said behind me. I turned to find Paige standing in the doorway, looking older but more genuine than I'd ever seen her. Shouldn't you be in treatment? I asked. Released this morning. She walked to the window, gazing out at the gardens. I spent 30 days in therapy learning about narcissism, manipulation, and toxic family dynamics. She laughed softly. Turns out I'm a textbook case. Why are you here? To apologize. And to thank you. She turned to face me. You did what I never had the courage to do. Break the cycle of entitlement in this family. I didn't do it for your family. No, you did it for justice. And we deserved it. She pulled something from her purse, a small, antique locket. This belonged to Jesse's grandmother. She was the last truly kind Blair before everything went wrong. I want you to have it. I don't want anything from this house. It's not from the house. It's from me. A reminder that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. Downstairs, the new owner was already discussing renovation plans with his designer. The irony wasn't lost on me. Chris appeared in the doorway. Ready to go? The papers are all signed. I took one last look around the room where my marriage had died and my strength had been born. Yes, I'm ready. In the foyer, James stopped me. I hear you're quite the renovation expert. He smiled. Any advice for the new owner? Just one thing, I said. Read every contract. Twice. Outside, the setting sun painted the estate in golden light. My security team was doing final checks, making sure nothing had been left behind. What now? Chris asked as we walked to our cars. You're a very wealthy woman after today's sale. Now? I pulled out my phone, showing him the website I'd been working on. Sunrise Holdings is going into business properly, helping other women protect their investments, navigate property laws, secure their futures. Converting revenge into revolution? He grinned. I like it. Not revenge, I corrected. Justice. There's a difference. As we drove away, I caught a final glimpse of the estate in my rear-view mirror. The Venice chandelier sparkled in the window, now belonging to someone who'd also learned the hard way about trust and betrayal. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Freya. Heard James bought the house. Karma's a bitch. I smiled, typing back. No, karma's just good business. Then I blocked her number and turned toward home. My real home, bought with the proceeds of justice served cold. They built the palace. I sealed the deal. And Karma? Well, Karma just handed me the keys to a whole new kingdom. The sun set behind me, and I didn't look back again. Some houses are built on love, some on lies. But mine was built on lessons learned and power earned, and that's a foundation that never crumbles.